Tank Academy is our new show that is aimed at preparing you to be an effective tank company and clan warriors player. Your instructor, Klayanislan, is a veteran tank commander who has trained dozens, if not hundreds, of tankers. As some of you already know, he regularly publishes his tactics and posts his training videos on the Russian World of Tanks Live journal. From now on, you'll be able to get lessons from him here at Wargaming TV. The tips and tactics we'll be discussing will help any player, but especially those players who are branching into coordinated competitive play. The topic of today's episode is perhaps one of the most important basics to master in team play: focusing your fire. The point of focusing your fire on a single enemy tank is to quickly eliminate the target before it can retreat to safety or reload. It requires coordination and discipline to do this as a team. It sounds simple, but is one of the keys to consistent victory. It applies to tank company battles and clan wars battles, and would greatly help the random battles if you could get your allies to work with you. If your team is not focusing fire, and you still manage to win, congratulations, but consider yourself lucky. The other team made a critical mistake. It's that important. If you're using this tactic and your enemy isn't, you can easily overcome any local superiority they may have. Luckily, the skill is not especially difficult to learn, but that doesn't mean you should speed through training with your teammates. Take the time to go over it slowly. Make sure each person understands how and why you're developing this tactic. Step 1. To begin with, just go over the basic principles of focusing fire. It should be fairly obvious to most, but remind them that the faster an enemy dies, the less damage they can potentially do. A tank at 2% health does just as much damage as a tank at 100% health. No health, no threat. The target needs to go down. Create a training room with your teammates and split them into even teams on a map like Prohorovka or Malinovka. The place isn't important, but something with a little room and some open space. The thing you'll be going over here is finding the target. You are going to call out targets, and your team is going to quickly turn and mark the targets with the T key. Call out the targets by different names, by most health, by least health, by any other thing that might be used to ID a potential target. The other team captain is going to be doing the same thing. Once you've done that for a while, it's time for the real thing. Both teams reposition, and the captains will call out targets one by one. Everyone will fire until the targets are destroyed. The entire time, keep the target symbol above the called-out target. All players should be marking the same target repeatedly, within reason, try not to spam, and firing until it's gone. You will see an improvement by the time you start the second training. In the second day of training, you'll be having the teams move around instead of sitting still. Keeping the T marker up is really important when the targets are mobile. It's easy to lose track. Here's a tip. You might want to consider rebinding some of your keys like the attack or target button to something like spacebar to make it much easier to give quick commands while driving. Step 2. The first round of training was pretty easy. All of the targets were motionless. All of the targets should be on the move in this exercise. Just go over what you discussed the day before and remind them that they need to keep firing at the same target until it's destroyed before they move on to the next one. Everything hinges on the captain for each team. They should be calling out the target in voice chat and placing the initial T marker today. Last time they were just calling out the targets and letting the team do the marking. Step 3. After you've run through Step 1 and 2 a few times, and it's clear that the whole team can fire on a single target without any deviation, then it's time to move on to explaining and learning target priority. As a captain, you won't be able to call out every target, so your teammates need to know what the captain was likely to have called out. Targets are chosen based on a string prioritized characteristics. The first characteristic to consider is the amount of time it takes to kill the target. HP, how many of your tanks have shots that will penetrate, etc. The second characteristic is the danger potential of the target. Damage potential, spotting ability, etc. Keep these two things in mind as you select targets. Target those enemies that have the optimal combination of a short kill time and the most threat potential. If the enemy has no pressing advantage, more guns than you have in the area, then aim at the most dangerous target. Typically these will be artillery, French tanks with automatic loaders, or tank destroyers. If the most dangerous target is behind other tanks, then go ahead and pick the next most dangerous target, because that first target is no longer the best target simply because it's hiding. You can see the effectiveness of this tactic in the Battle of Himmelsdorf. The tank with the lowest hit points was the first target. But the second target, with almost full HP, was more exposed. so everyone turned their guns on that second target while the lower HP target was behind cover. They then moved on to kill the original low HP target. Step 4. The final step is splitting the team into platoons and putting them into random queue. Each platoon will have a leader, the person with the most experience and best understanding of the focus fire tactic. The members of each platoon should be using the same tanks. These random battles should help to make up for some of the lost credits in the training room battles you did earlier. Having one good platoon will turn the tide in random queue. As you can see, they're marking their targets. The KV-3 is the easier target to destroy in this situation, so they are ignoring the KV-5. Their coordination is what has allowed them to overcome their opponents. The enemy tanks are moving alone and aren't playing with any degree of cooperation, so they're dying fast. They just can't stand up to a platoon that's working together. Common mistakes. You'll see a lot of players making very repetitive mistakes in the practice rooms and in the random queue. The most common mistake is probably clinching, face-hugging, brawling, etc. at the wrong time. When an ally runs up and rubs paint with the enemy, it can sometimes block the shots that his teammates would have on that enemy. Only get in the opponent's face when you aren't going to be obstructing your teammates' shots on that enemy. Another common mistake of the inexperienced player is to shoot an enemy's frontal armor without any attempt at getting into a better position. If you're working in a group, you should use every opportunity that doesn't put you in danger to get onto the target tank's side or rear. The armor is typically thinner there, so it makes sense that you want to shoot there. Every captain and every soldier should know by heart that cooperation and coordination is what wins the battle. The battles in World of Tanks can get heated very quickly. It can take less than a minute for the first firefight to erupt. If both fast-moving rush groups meet each other early on, then the entire battle can be determined with that first encounter. Whoever wins in that engagement will have an amazing advantage. Training will really pay off in moments like this. Your soldiers will live and die based on which team can focus down their enemies the fastest. There isn't anything mysterious about these tactics. Every soldier on your team should be able to predict the next target, but have the discipline to focus down the one that is called out or marked by the captains first. This is the end of our first Tank Academy lesson. It's now your responsibility to get out and drill with your soldiers. In the next installment, we'll go over the tactics of how to cover your teammates when they're at low hit points. Good luck on the battlefield. Roll out.